to the Goody Room, your one-stop shop for everything movies, TV, and more. We know you want the goodies. And welcome back to your main event, the Goody Room, featuring the Nachos and his guy in the chair, Frankie Rock. Hey, Frank.
You know, your voice dropped a little bit. You weren't as enthused while you were introducing me. I'd like you to do it again.
That's the secret, Frank. I'm never enthusiastic when I have to, introduce you.
Wow. How's that supposed to make me feel starting off this podcast? Episode 14, no less.
I mean, I guess however you want it to feel, this isn't really like a therapy session though, so let's
here's the thing. I don't want to spoil the episode for our couple listeners, but I know why you're treating me so poorly, and I will bring it up during Children with Adult Money.
Yeah. I knew you were going to go there, huh? You were going to bring that up.
This is your fault. I was being all nice, so you just had to start.
No, so I'm going to bring it up right now. All right, wow. So we have an update on the Batman. All right, long story short, he is coming. All right, we finally got the shipping information, and Frank's comes tomorrow, and mine comes Friday.
This episode is being recorded on February 21st, and my Batman hot toy should arrive February 22nd by 7 p.m. according to the tracking. Matt, when's yours gonna arrive?
You know what? We're just gonna get in. We're gonna do it backwards here. We're gonna do Children with Money right now. We're gonna talk about it. Okay.
I'm vengeance.
All right. He is here. All right. He's not here. He's like in the mail.
He's no longer on a shipping container coming in from Hong Kong or wherever these things are made. He's not in California where Sideshow Collectibles is based. No, he is on his way via UPS.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, why don't you pull up your tracking and let me know where he is?
Where is he?
The last I checked, he was somewhere in Ohio, one of the towns like on the edge of the state.
Okay, all right. Let's see if I'll let you know as soon as mine updates here.
Yep, I checked right before I came down and we started recording. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, he is finally going to be here, and by next episode, we will probably be showing him off on the episode 15. I think that's great. It's like a nice, what do you call it? A number where it's like, it's not like even, it's not odd. Well, I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is why I'm an English teacher.
How is yours in Ohio? Mine's in California. It just left California.
Wow. Maybe it's not up to date as it thinks. Well, that's where that extra day comes in, Matt, where you won't have yours and I will.
This is some BS, man. All right. If you're wondering, it was 206 days since we started doing this.
Batman Watch. Oh my gosh. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. I bet you our viewers are so happy that he's finally going to be arriving. They're like, finally, we'll be done talking about this guy and we'll move on to new topics. No. We will always talk about this Batman. How can we not at this point? He's part of the show, just like Matt and I.
Him arriving is not the end of this. All right. No. Like, you believe me, the next episode, you might not even see me on camera. You might just see just the Batman.
That's right. Depending on how my camera goes, my camera is awful. If you're watching on YouTube, my camera is awful. So we'll see. I'm not going to make any promises, but yeah, Matt, you go ahead, you do it.
Or you know what? You might see me, but in the shadows, you might see him.
Because he is the shadows.
Right. He is the shadows. But I can't wait to, finally to just get this figure in. This has been, Frank, I mean, it's over 2 years for us that we've
I think when I got the shipment notification, I didn't really believe it. So I went on to Sideshow's website to see, and it had my purchase date, which was 2 years ago now, and I was just like, "It's been that long."
Yes.
Nuts. Nuts. And if to put it in perspective, I've ordered other things from Sideshow that have been announced and came out after the Batman was announced, and they have already arrived. So it's been a journey for this, waiting for this guy. I forget what episode we talked about it, but there was they were kind of warring with another company that does these highly detailed figures, and they were both trying to outdo each other in detail, and that's what the holdup was.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't wait. I know the other day, I think Frank, I even sent you a reel. You know, if you guys have seen the reels where it's like the girl, like, you know why he's not texting you right now, and it literally then cuts to a guy playing with his Batman hot toy, and like using him in different positions. I was like, yeah, that's totally gonna be us.
That absolutely. I it's funny because this will be my third hot toy that I'll have in my collection, and I always have it in my mind. This is the pose I'm going to go with, and the pose that it ends up being in is never anywhere close to what I had imagined in my mind. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it and figuring out how it will be displayed.
Yeah, and all the goodies. Yeah, right. It comes with him, but
He actually, believe it or not, compared to other hot toys that I've looked into and I've seen, he comes with an absurd amount of accessories and goodies. It's unreal how many he comes with.
I'll be curious to see how you pose them. I know that's one thing when we got our Christian Bale, right? We both
Yep.
had different like things that we did, like the face plates, the heads, you know, the positioning of the body, the accessories that you pose with him. Like I think you chose not, you went with like a fighting with the
Yes.
face, right? And I was like, I really want like this one of the like the electric pulse guns like he uses in the film.
What I was going for, if you're listening and you've seen the movie The Dark Knight Rises, one of my favorite shots of the movie, and it was filmed at what's the building in Pittsburgh where he fights Bane at the end?
The steel, oh, Carnegie Mellon
Carnegie
University.
Mellon, yes. And I actually was in a wedding party where we got photos there, and another buddy of ours in the wedding, we recreated the fight from that scene, and we have it, we're full out in tuxes. But anyway, there's a shot from that movie where Batman runs up the stairs real quick and turns around and just like gets into this fighting pose as Bane slowly walking up after him. And that's what I was trying to recreate. That's what I was going for with my pose.
Yeah, I really didn't have anything like, you know, from the scene. I really just like that kind of just electric gun that he had or whatever it is. And I was like, you know what? I think that's just kind of iconic from like the movie.
It
And
really is. I think though with Christian Bale, just like everything in his movie, every gadget or car or bike or plane that he had real world applications. Like the gun that you're talking about, like you could see that being developed and used on the field. I'm sure they have something like it.
yeah, like I always said, I mean, eventually I'm gonna get a Michael Keaton, one. But if I ever get a Michael Keaton, I always picture him with the grappling gun, like his arm just extended out,
Yes.
like looking to fire it, because it's just always in my head in that
I
pose.
feel like anytime they're promoting Batman Returns, which you're after the Batman Returns suit, right?
Yeah, that's the one I want.
The image that you're talking about is like the go-to image they use of him in any of the promotional material. Like it's always that scene. So
Yeah,
I think that would be only right that you would use that as your pose.
they're marketing to Matt. They're
They are.
marketing.
Well,
All right,
um,
your brother's right. AI has control of everything. All right, they're
my brother does have some pretty good theories on AI. Typically, his theories are doom and gloom, but this one actually makes I can see it. And you're right. The AI has you now, but also though, before AI was a thing, back when it was just in Terminator 2, when James Cameron is now like, I warned you back in 1991. It's like you didn't know anything. You just wanted to entertain us and make your billions, but back in the day when Batman Returns came out, I still remember like the commercials and my brother and I had T-shirts that we bought, like that my parents got us at like Walmart, and it was that pose with his arm extended with the grapple gun ready to rock. Like that has forever been the pose from that movie.
For sure. But hey, he's coming, guys. So I'm happy. I know a lot of other people are happy too. Like this is just, man, this has been a journey. Forget Lord of the Rings. Like this is a journey right here.
This was the journey. This is our Lord of the Rings.
This is if you ever seen and actually it's gonna be, we got streamer Botch coming up next. I know we kind of got right into Children with Adult Money, but we got a full episode. The rest of the episode is going to be just streamer Botch, and one of the things we're talking about is the new Masters of the Universe on Netflix, the Revolution, which is a continuation of the kind of animated series that Kevin Smith was a part of and created. And if you ever seen Masters of the Universe, like especially like the live action film, they always say "good journey," and that's what I say. That's what I think about with the Batman, the good journey.
Good journey. That's the movie you're talking about. Dolph Lundgren, right? He's He-Man in that movie. Yeah,
Yep.
we'll talk about it once we get there. But I feel like we're off routine, and I'm getting nervous. So let's get back on routine.
We gotta get back on track for you. You don't like. Hey, you're the one who wanted to start this debate.
Now hold on. You're the one that got me fired up first. If you would have just introduced me right, we wouldn't be here.
Well, I'm an instigator, all right? You know this about me.
Well, stop stirring the pot and let's get back on track.
All right, streamer Botch coming up. Let me get the Batman off the film here.
As you're getting that ready, I'd like to just give a quick shout out. When we talked about Wonka last episode, there were multiple people who suggested it to me. One was a student that I had talked about, but the other was one of our faithful listeners, Joe Gates, who is a friend of ours. He also had recommended this movie back when it was in theaters, and I want to give him his due. Joe, this is your shout out. Thank you for recommending Wonka.
All right, moving on here. We got Migration. So this is the Illumination computer animation movie. It's about a family of ducks. Who the dad duck he's kind of afraid to like leave his pond area, and they usually just spend the winter there. And his family talks him into migrating to the Bahamas, and of course, it doesn't go as expected. They end up going the wrong way, and they end up in New York. So I was super interested in seeing this movie because Illumination, they'd done Minions, they did the Grinch animation. They did what's the other one I'm thinking? I can't think of the other one.
Shrek, right? Despicable Me.
Yeah, Despicable
Me. How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, they've done just a lot of stuff, and it's always been really super entertaining. And I've always been really impressed with the material that comes out. So it was an automatic. I actually was going to take the kids to the theaters to see this, but it came out luckily shortly after that. I didn't get time to go, and I bought it, right? And I told Frank, I was like, hey, it's eligible for Movies Anywhere if you want to check it out. And I know you did too. But I was a bit disappointed. I mean, the kids were happy, but me as someone who was excited to see it, especially what had been coming out of the that studio, little disappointing. And what I mean by that is you basically see the whole movie from the trailer and the previews. That is the movie. And I hate that, right? And, I was like, there has to be more, and there just wasn't.
I actually, for that reason, try to avoid trailers as best as I possibly can. There are some movies that I will rewatch the trailer multiple times, but especially on Netflix, whenever you hover over the icon, it gives the trailer. They give away the whole thing, and my wife likes to watch those, and I'll tell her like, "Hey, let me go into the back room as you watch this trailer because I would like to go in blind. I know that you like a little taste, fine." But I don't want the whole meal. You know what I mean?
Right, just a taste. But yeah, I mean, like, it's still entertaining. There were parts where I laughed, but I mean, they were the same parts I laughed when I saw the trailer. Like, there really just wasn't anything more to it. But like I said, the kids loved it. If you have kids, I mean, I highly recommend checking it out. I don't know if I would pay money to buy it. I mean, I I don't mind because again, I have kids and I put it on their like iPads and tablets and things so that they can watch it and they have options. So I mean, it was worth it in that aspect. But if I was you a fan listening, I would probably wait till it comes out on a streaming service because that's 100% going to happen. That happens with all the elimination movies.
It always does. I'm thinking probably Peacock. That's where I feel like Illumination is run by Universal, and that's where a lot of their movies go. I would also have to agree with a lot of what Matt said. I thought, I watched it with my wife and my son. He wasn't really into it. I don't think I watched. We weren't doing anything anyway, so we kept watching it. I enjoyed the movie a great deal up until the point where they got to New York, and that's where they kind of lost me. I just didn't think it was as interesting. Maybe if they would have just like stayed in New York just for a little bit, but a good portion of the movie takes place in New York City, and it wasn't for me, that part. But once they were on their journey back, like I started paying attention again. I thought the last couple scenes were some of the funniest in the movie. Um, if you've seen it, you'd probably know what I'm talking about. But ultimately, I probably would not have watched this had Matt not put it on the Movies Anywhere for us. So I just kind of feel middle of the road with it. I don't know if I'd recommend it. I don't know if I would not recommend it. I think Matt hit the nail on the head. If you have kids, they definitely will probably enjoy it. My son just, I think, was a little too young to be following along with it, or he's 3, so something probably else caught his attention. But yeah, I'm not a stream nor a botch for it. I'm just kind of in the middle.
Yep, and I think that's perfect. Again, I'm not a botch either. I think it is worthy of a stream if you have kids, but don't expect to get more than like I said, the what was in the trailer. Like Frank, you had mentioned, like the majority of the movie takes place in New York. That is the trailer. The whole trailer is all the New York scenes.
Oh, really? Wow. And there's more. I felt like the better parts of the movie were the non-New York scenes.
Yeah, like, but there's not a whole lot of those, and
No.
like, right, and so I was expecting more of New York, right, a little bit more, kind of like them trying to make like different things happen or figure out how to get to the Bahamas, which is where they were trying to go, and I felt like that happened like really fast, and the but the rest of the movie was just kind of like whatever.
I think though it started out very strong with the setup, dad for whatever. I can't even remember the reason why he doesn't want to travel. Oh, there was like some story the uncle had told him. The uncle is played by Danny DeVito, might be my favorite character. But right along initially in their journey, the first 2 stops, they're meeting like different birds, and these birds have different personalities and very, very funny. But when they get to New York, they also meet some pigeons that they have their moments, but they just remain there too long. I think if the movie kept like going, like, okay, they're in New York, they met the New York birds, or if they kept going down the United States, the coastal line, and met like birds from South Carolina, and they were like Hojaks or something like that,
Yeah,
or hillbillies or whatever. I'm not saying that the hillbillies are all in North or South Carolina, but just each bird had its own like personality. I kind of like what Zootopia did, where all the animals had their own like different stereotypes going on. I think the movie would have been much better.
yeah, I agree with you. Like, and that's kind of what I was expecting them to have multiple stops. And I was like, oh, the trailer's just showing like New York, right? But they'll
Mm-hmm.
end up in different places. And I think you're right. It probably would have been a better film had they done that. But like I said, it's not really a botch. I'm kind of middle of the road, like Frank. If it's on a streaming service that you have, check it out. But I wouldn't go out of my way. Any final words, Frank?
No, like middle of the road.
That's all we have to say about that. All right. Next up, we got Iron Claw. Now, this is one that Frank has seen. I am actually super interested to see this, but I am one of those people that's waiting for it to pop up on one of my streaming services. So, Frank, go ahead and take it away.
So this is a movie that this was probably like my most anticipated of last year. Unfortunately, I was not able to go see it in theaters. My wife and I had a babysitter lined up, and we had our tickets to go. We were all excited because I felt like they were showing the preview for this movie in front of everything in the fall. Um, and I woke up the day we were going to go with a terrible sinus infection, and it just wasn't happening. So we unfortunately had to miss it in theaters. So I said, okay, when it hits digital, I'm just going to pick it up. I'll spend the $20, which, believe it or not, was cheaper than us going to the movie anyway, factoring in gas, babysitter, and all, and tickets provided. So I think it worked out. The Iron Claw is a true story about a wrestling family, the Von Erichs, and I am not a massive wrestling fan. I know a lot of the stuff from the late 80s, early 90s, but this was more of the late 70s, early 80s, and just getting into the 90s a little bit. I don't remember watching these guys, WWF, but man, what a great biography of this family. Zac Efron plays the main character, or the main brother, Kevin Von Erich. And I've been saying this for years. I think Zac Efron must have a bad agent, because Zac Efron should have had movies like this, these serious roles for him. He should have about 15, 20 of these movies under his belt. But for whatever reason, he's only now getting to this point in his career. The kid from The Bear, who's the main character in The Bear, Jeremy Allen White, he plays another one of the brothers. The guy from, what's that? I think it's like Mindhunters on Netflix, Matt. Is that the one that was filmed in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, there's some scenes in Mindhunters. That's the FBI. Are you talking about,
Yes.
like, yeah, Mindhunter?
The older guy from Mindhunters plays the dad, and all these guys are just like firing off on all cylinders. Not only that, the mom from Liar Liar, Jim Carrey's love interest, she plays the mom in this movie. Holy cow. Like she has like the two scenes insanely heartbreaking. Like you can't help but get choked up. But if you don't know, the Von Erichs, true story, obviously, but ended in tragedy. In fact, there is so much tragedy that happened to this family in their time in wrestling. They actually eliminated one of the brothers from the movie because they're just like, the director said, there's just only so much we can put in a 2-hour film about your tragedy. And unfortunately, you have a lot of tragedy. But I thought the movie moved at a great pace. The acting was just outstanding. The story was good. Ever since I saw Oppenheimer in the summer, I was just like hungry for another biography movie on that level. It doesn't quite hit Oppenheimer's level, but it definitely comes close. I would absolutely recommend this movie if you're into biographies. If you're into wrestling, I don't know if it really how true it hits with the story, but man, it is a very good movie. It is a bit of a downer, but it does end on a very good note that kind of, you're like, all right, that's really sad, but at least there's hope. But I just thought it was a really well done movie, and I'm hoping it opens up the doors for everybody involved to see them in more movies like this, of this caliber, that are just really well done.
Yeah, you brought up a great point about, especially like Zac Efron. I feel like people like him get typecast, right?
Sure.
Which is why they don't end up getting a lot of these roles. But he's a phenomenal actor. I
Right.
mean, even Robert Patterson. I mean, like, look at him, right? Another great actor, and it took him how long to get a film like The Batman?
Yes.
He was always kind of just in these like really similar roles, and unfortunately, people like that, that happens to. We always talk about like John C. Riley, right? Like everybody
Yeah.
knows like a funny guy, but he's really a great like dramatic actor.
Oh, in fact, he's actually, it's in the same with Jeff Daniels, because everybody knows him from Dumb and Dumber. They are better at being dramatic than they are at being funny. Like, don't get me wrong, both can be hysterical. but they are heavy hitters when it comes to the dramatic roles. Like they need to do more of that.
Yeah, and when you brought up, man, the love interest from Liar Liar.
Yeah.
Haven't seen her in a minute, but I'm just sitting there. You found the clause one weakness: sub-zero temperatures.
Yeah. Well, and it's also funny because the movie's called The Iron Claw, which
Yes.
the dad was, the patriarch of the family. The dad, he was a wrestler and he got his sons into wrestling. And the dad's signature move was he'd go up to his opponents and like grab him by the skull like that. And it was called the Iron Claw. And his sons adopted that move. And not only that, I
That's
typically
typically how it works in wrestling. Sorry, that's
yeah,
they have. There's a lot of legacy, right, families in wrestling. I
right.
always really enjoy these wrestling, like biopics and things like
Yes.
that. Because, like you said, unfortunately, there is a lot of tragedy, and I know I like drama series movies at times, and like I really get into these real like true stories.
Right. Couple more things. I'll try to go quick because I know we have a full schedule tonight, but I typically don't get into or buy into the people doing like transforming their bodies for roles. Like when Matthew McConaughey lost all the weight for Dallas Buyers Club. Okay, great, but the performance was middle of the road at best. So I I know you disagree, but Christian Bale gaining all that weight for the Vice President movie he was in, you gain a
Oh,
lot of
that,
weight.
that one's BS.
Right.
That one's BS.
But like I feel like the body transformation stuff always outshines like the actual performance and things like that's just my opinion. If you like Dallas Buyers Club, a lot of people like it. I'm a minority on my opinion on that, but for this movie, The Iron Claw, all the characters that played the wrestlers, I got to tell you, Matt, I want to look into it because I think there was a steroid shortage in Hollywood because these guys, I mean, holy cow! Like it, my wife brought up a good point about Zac Efron. He was so jacked and muscled, he looked uncomfortable, and that's the only way to describe him. Like he was so big, there's no way he was comfortable in that body because it was just like his muscles has muscles, his veins had veins. It was so unrealistic. And the bear, the kid that played the bear, he even said, he goes in an interview I saw, he goes, "Those bodies are unrealistic. Like that's not my natural body." And it's like, okay, well, like we knew you were on the Hollywood Cocktail. You don't have to tell us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's that's part of it, right?
Right.
You even look at professional athletes, right? Like a lot of that stuff's unsustainable, and normally when these guys get out of these professions, whether it's professional sports or wrestling or even acting, right? A lot of times they let their selves go. Like I always one person I always like, age is part of it, right? But like
Right.
I always think about
Absolutely.
like Russell Crowe, right?
Oh, I know. I
Really
know. Well,
side.
I honestly think Russell Crowe is just at a point in his career where he's like, it doesn't matter what I look like, I'm Russell Crowe. And he's right. Like, how many movies of his have we watched just because he's in it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, but that's what happens. Like,
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the day where that happens to Dwayne Johnson, right?
Right, right. And I bring this all up. Like if you look at me, like I am Mr. Average dad bod, whatever. I am no like Greek god. I'm just saying like part, as you said, part of getting these roles, whether it be the Von Erichs or a Captain America, like you have to look the part, or it's just not going to be believable.
Yeah, and it really is unrealistic. Like you said, you look at a lot of those guys. It's not their normal body. Like Jonah Hill has done tons of body transformations over the years, right?
Right,
Like his weight is constantly up and down. But even like I brought up Dwayne Johnson, go look at his workout plan. Like it's ridiculous. Mark Wahlberg, same thing. Like these guys are constantly staying in shape, right? They're some of them, especially for some of these roles, they have to take a little bit performance enhancers, a
right.
cocktail, but a lot of it goes with training, right, and the right amount of training, which is usually pretty intense, but also having the right kind of regimen and a lot of times they get like their meals made for them by
Right.
personal chefs. There's a whole thing, but like you said, it's part of the gig, right?
Yeah.
That's the role. You got to have the look for the role.
If you're ever curious just to what it takes to be like one of these guys that are in these movies to get that body, there's a wonderful series out on YouTube. I think Men's Health puts it out, called Gym and Fridge, where, I think Mark Wahlberg was on an episode, and these actors will show, hey, this is what's in my fridge. And then they show them a stereotypical day in their workout. And every time they open up that fridge, you just see containers upon containers upon containers of meal prep. Like, I get excited when I do like 1 week of meal prep, one meal, like lunch. These guys have everything prepped. And, it's just like, holy cow. Like, you have to have someone that's doing that for you. No way you made that steak, Mark Wahlberg. I don't believe you.
Well, yeah, they always say like, right, like there's always this meme that comes out, and it's like, you're not ugly, you're just poor, right?
There's that
They
too.
always and they always show it's a picture of Tom Brady when he first got drafted in the NFL, and he's just like, it's just like
Yeah.
a typical college like guy, right?
Right,
And
right. Joe
and then they
Collins.
show him now with his like chiseled like chin line and
Yeah.
like, looking in shape and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I mean that's a really good comparison right there.
One last thing. You brought up The Rock and his what he eats and everything. One of my favorite meme, I don't know if it's a meme or things online about The Rock, is when they post photos of his cheat day.
Oh yeah, I
It's
love
epic.
that.
Like, when there's one where it's just like him in front of a mountain of pancakes, probably as tall as I am. Dude, those pancakes look heavenly. I want to know who made those pancakes, because I want one.
But that's just breakfast, right? Like he
Right.
like yeah, like he has like multiple pizzas, like
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. But it is epic. But that just goes to show you the sacrifice that like that type of stuff takes,
Right.
right? So anyways, next we got streamer Botch on here. We got Percy Jackson. So I know, Frank, you saw episode 1. I
Just
actually
episode 1.
I watched all 8 episodes. Unfortunately, I don't know why I wasted that much time with 8, but hey, whatever. It was something to check out. But Percy Jackson, so Disney at it again, right? Let's try and redo this here. We're gonna make it a series on Disney Plus because we don't have any content that anybody's interested in. Is how I look at it.
Correct. I tell people all the time, if it was not for my son loving the show Bluey, we would not have Disney Plus.
Right, exactly. So, uh, you know, first of all, they don't even finish this season's about the Lightning Thief, right? The Lightning Thief story, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, got to
How
start
many
it at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, fine, but they don't even finish the story at the end of the
Oh,
season.
really?
No, you have to wait for another season for them to finish this story.
So let me get this straight. I'm sure on this, I probably could look on this bookshelf right behind me, and I'm sure I could find The Lightning Thief. From what I recall, The Lightning Thief is at best 250 pages. And they took 8 episodes, and they didn't even finish the book.
No.
What is this, The Hobbit? Where they're stretching it out? What are they doing?
I mean, like so here, I'm not spoiling anything. Like
You're not. I've read
like,
the book. I've seen the original movie. I know what happens. Go ahead.
even for the people, right? Like you either read the book or you've seen the original movie, right? So
As
you
an
should
English teacher, anytime I would ask students, like, hey, what was one of your favorite books, or what books have you read? Percy Jackson was like, I would say 9 chances out of 10, Percy Jackson came up, and that's fine. I'm just saying, but people know the story.
Yeah, so like if I recall correctly, like he meets a Poseidon at the end. He
Right.
returns the bolt to Zeus, but it kind of just ends there. So I know they're trying to build it up into more, but they didn't even finish like the stuff with like I feel like with Hades. Like Hades still has his mom. I don't recall her being like saved at all. Um, unless I was wrong there, but it was just awkward to me. It felt like you should have ended like truly ended this story, and then we could have been prepared for something else.
Right. I think so. I used to watch the show with my dad all the time. It was one of my favorite shows of all time, 24. 24 was famous for the storyline. 24 was a show that ran where the whole season was 24 episodes, and it was each episode was an hour in this guy's life. Like each season was one day. But at the end of the day, so episode 23 and 24, in episode 23, the major storyline was wrapped up. Okay. And episode 24 was always set up for the next season. I always loved how they did that because it's like, okay, this is done now. And this is what you need to get excited about come the fall when we come back. That's what I feel like all shows should do something like that.
But all shows really do that, right? All shows give you some type of cliff, like the good ones. I'll
Right,
say this:
right.
the good
Just
ones
they give you a little taste.
they'll give you a cliffhanger, right, to keep you wanting more, and they do that in case they get renewed for more seasons because sometimes you just don't know, so you
Right,
leave
right.
it open ended, right, for that potential, and like so it's still open ended, but I feel like there was more to tell in this story here. Like what's his name, Luke, right? Who's the real lightning thief?
Hmm.
Like he never like pays the price or anything. Like he just disappears.
Right. I think Luke, if I'm remembering correctly, it's been about 15 years since I read these books when we were in college when the first movie had come out, the original movie, which didn't really follow the book too much. Fine. I mean, it was basically followed it, but without following it. And I would say what I saw from this first episode of the new series, it was following the book more. I like the movie better. I'm gonna be that guy. Just like, and that's why I stopped watching it. And it's just like I remember Luke in the books and in the second movie even was developed as like he was kind of like the Draco Malfoy. He just kept coming back and just pestering, Percy Jackson.
Yeah, and see, to me, like, and I didn't read the book. Like, to me, that's annoying, right?
Yeah,
Like, he's the villain of the first one. Let's
sure.
call it a day, right? Let's move on to the next one, which is, like, and they're all going towards like Kronos, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
where the next season's gonna go, where the second movie went,
Hmm.
right? So like, I get it. I don't know. Like, and it was like, and then it's weird. Like 8 episodes. Like, I don't know why Disney Plus does this. Like, it's only 8 episodes. Like, why can't you just make it 10 episodes? Like, I kept going back, like thinking there was more. And then not only that, but Disney really needs to start like, and they did this with that show Echo, right? Probably because nobody cares. But they uploaded all the episodes at once for you to go binge. Like you didn't have to wait each and every week.
Right. Um, I don't want to get started on Disney personally. I could do a full episode on Disney and where, and it's not just one spot. I'm very unhappy with how the company is going right now as far as the content that they're putting out and how they're putting it out. But the main reason across the board for all of it is that, and people are like, well, you feel this way, you feel that way. No, it's just like I want good content to watch and enjoy and be entertained, even if they are trying to send a message or whatever. Okay, but like at least make it entertaining and good to watch. Like what you're giving is like very boring stuff, and it's just like it's not good. And I don't want to get started because like this is like a slippery slope for me.
Well, yeah, and I mean we don't have to. Like what they're doing is they're just trying to keep people subscribed,
Right,
right?
and I get
That's
that.
that's the difficulty right now because the content isn't there. They it's not like Netflix where they're buying and like renting other content and updating it, right? Or like
Right.
Hulu. You know what I mean? On top of their original content. It's Disney's back catalog, right?
Mhm.
Marvel, Star Wars.
Which only goes so far, believe it or not. You'd think it would be infinite, but you run out of stuff to if you're not into like all of it, and you only like a niche thing, like let's say Star Wars, you can knock out all the Star Wars stuff probably in like a month, you know.
Right. So without that fresh content, that's what I'm saying coming
Sure.
in, right? You have to do stuff like this. But yeah, so Percy Jackson, honestly, botch. I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't waste your time. It's been done before. They should have tried something new or did a different storyline. Like if you do the Lightning Thief, finish it up, right? And then give me like a cliffhanger, like for something maybe new that hasn't been done. Like come
So
up with some new content.
here's what they should have done. And I'm gonna say botch. Go watch the first movie again. I think it's better. Yeah, come at me, Percy Jackson fans who hate that
I,
first one.
I like the first movie too. I think the
Right.
first movie is great. I don't like the second one.
Without that first movie, I wouldn't have read the books. But the author Rick Riordan, I'm probably saying his name wrong. He has another series of books that are based on, I think, the Egyptian gods. I think, but he has a completely different another series other than Percy Jackson. Whatever that series is, that's what they should have done. It's new, it's fresh. And now they're probably like, well, they're trying to hook the fans and bring them in, and then they'll do that. But it's just like, you know what? If I've learned anything out of the last couple of years following the box office and things like that, people like familiar ideas, sure, but they like something new, something exciting. You know, if you look at the movies that are hitting the $1 billion mark, the $2 billion marks, you know, those big box office draws, all new and fresh content. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
Disney, if you're listening, I want you to succeed, but you got to meet us halfway here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. And finally, but not last, let this be our final streamer botch.
Let us be our final streamer.
Masters of the Universe Revolution. So the reason I make that joke is I've been telling Frank Masters of the Universe, one of the famous quotes in it, besides "I have the power," right, where he holds up the sword, is "Let this be our final battle," and I just love it. I get all goosebumps. I get chills, and I'm like, yes, this is the action that I'm craving.
Spoiler
But
alert, it is never the final battle, but every time they say that, you will be just excited as the last time.
just as excited as Matt.
Yeah, look at if you're watching on YouTube, I haven't seen Matt smile like this since God knows when. Yeah.
You'll see me. Maybe we'll FaceTime on Friday when I open the Batman because you'll see me smile. Don't even try on Thursday because I'm gonna ignore you. Anyways,
I'm
this
still calling you. I'm gonna keep calling until you answer.
so this is a continuation of the series on Netflix, like we kind of were talking about a little bit earlier with Kevin Smith on Netflix. What was the first one called? It was like
Revelations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was a two-part. I highly recommend you go watch it. I think we even talked about it once before,
We
but
have.
definitely go check it out. It's not even really like He-Man's actually not even in it a whole lot. It's really cool because you get to really character build on a lot of the other people, and it's a really, I think, a fresh take on this whole like universe.
Right.
Revolution is the sequel to that. So if you haven't seen Revelations, you have to go watch that first to understand Revolution. But all your guys, your favorite guys are back. Skeletor's back, Skeletac, or whatever they're calling him in this one.
For those of you that don't know, it's a known thing in our circle of friends that Skeletor is my spirit animal. Like that is just like if I was Harry Potter and I did a Patronus charm, Skeletor would pop out.
That's quite a Patronus.
That's right. And like Matt was saying, I would say the first part of Revelations, He-Man's not in it a whole lot. He comes back in and it's all set up. And a lot of people were turned off by that, but I think in this one, Revolutions, boy, keep me on track if I mix that up. I feel like it's all He-Man, and it's great.
Yeah, this one is actually, you're right. It's more focused. The first one was kind of focused on a lot of the other characters and Eternia as a whole, right?
Right.
And kind of like their state. And then this takes it a bit further where the revolution is really a battle between magic, which Eternia has kind of always accepted, right? Like, but before that, they were based on technology. So it's a battle between magic and technology, and this kind of new puppet master that Skeletor has, right? That comes into the picture and things like that. And like you said, Frank, it's more about He-Man and really his family history, right? And
Right.
kind of how things, the future of Eternia is going to continue, and really Prince Adam, who's He-Man, he has to make really a tough decision. Does he continue, right? Not really. Don't want to give too much away, but his father passes away, so now he has to make a decision. Do I roll as Prince Adam, or do I roll as He-Man? Which is almost kind of like a conflict of interest, right? You
Right.
can't be like the warrior and the king as well. You kind of have to keep that separate, in my opinion.
I
But
agree, and that's why it makes it a good drama. I was telling Matt before we started recording that at episode 2 is when this main story of conflict comes in, and I was like, man, we're getting a little too serious for my liking. This is meant to be fun and exciting, but boy, by the time episode 2 ends, and you can't help but go straight through. They're short, 5 short 20-minute episodes, and they all are rock solid and full to the brim of just action, adventure, and story. Like, I was smiling the entire time.
And that's why, like, I love these, and the animation I think is like awesome.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's totally made for an adult audience. This is not made for kids. Please don't have your kids watch this.
But it still has that. So, basically they wanted to, Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin, who is his co-showrunner. They basically wanted to give the old show from the 80s, which I'm so sad they took that off Netflix. Do you remember when we were binging that?
We were binging that hardcore. I love that.
It's just like mindless good fun, and it was the kind of like a Bob Ross. You put it on right before bedtime, and it just sends you off. It puts you in a good mood, and whatever happened in your day, doesn't matter anymore. But this one it's a little bit more hardcore. It still has that 80s cheese factor. One of my favorite lines from the season is so cheesy, but if I would say it, it would absolutely give away a major plot point, and I don't want to do that for you. But I just think if you grew up watching the cartoon, which I caught a few episodes growing up, and I remember my older cousin gave me his old He-Man and Skeletor toys, and I just remember just playing with them nonstop. But
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, in like we talked about, like that Dolph Lundgren, right? The live action, like that's what got me into Masters of the Universe. And when this came out, like this is awesome. And like Frank said, there's not an episode where I don't have a smile on my face, and it's just enjoyable. I like where the story is going. I like what Kevin Smith is doing with it, and there's going to be a second part to the Revolution.
Because they do the right thing, like any good show. They end the story, and they give you just enough to keep you excited for the next part, as any good show should do.
Just a
Percy
taste.
Jackson. Of course.
Just a taste, right? Yeah, so like, yeah, I think it's a stream. I would highly recommend it. I keep telling my friends, like, who are Masters of the Universe fans as well too, to check these out. I know they're like lazy and rolling their eyes every time I tell them, but
right.
it's just
I'm sure our audience is rolling their eyes right now, but I agree.
That's cool. That's cool. What audience? We don't even have an audience.
Let's face it, my dad is not going to be watching Masters of the Universe.
He should. He should.
He should. You know what? He Huh?
He doesn't want the power?
He doesn't want the power, but he should come up and watch it with his grandbaby, because my son, I know we said you shouldn't watch this with your kids, but my kid's at a good age where it's like he's not. I mean, he doesn't really understand what's going on, and he sat and watched a few episodes with me. And when the explosions happened, we both looked at each other and we went boom, and it was a good bonding moment. But
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, right? It's just
right,
it's more of a graphic novel type
right.
of series, right?
I would say it's just a little bit more violent. Like people get impaled. You'll see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you brought up your dad. He's not gonna be watching this, but next time I see him, I'm just gonna be like, let this be our final battle.
Dude, he'll be at March Madness, so you'll get to do that relatively soon.
Oh yeah.
One, I want to jump back though to the first season because I was having lunch with one of our friends the other day, and he was asking me had I watched it yet, and I said I had. I knew when I was going to sit down and watch it, I'd want to watch it all, and I wanted to clear out. I have enough time to do that and enjoy it how I wanted to, and at that point, I had it. And he goes, "What do you think about all the haters from people that were hating on season one and how He-Man was only in it a little bit, but came in at the end?" And I said, "Well, honestly, it was cool to see these other characters, and it wasn't just He-Man and Skeletor." And he brought up the best point because he's of a certain age where he was a kid when the cartoon first hit, and he remembers going to the store and buying the toys, and he goes, I had all these action figures from the show. They never really touched upon their story, and I was always curious,
Yep.
what's this guy's story? He goes, now I have that. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I can only imagine like the good feeling he has of nostalgia that he's riding on with that feeling. So I think Kevin and Mark are doing great things with this show, and I can't wait to see the next part.
And like you said, that's what that first one was about for me, character development, right?
Same.
It's
Absolutely.
more than just Masters of the Universe is more than just He-Man. And in Revolution, I'm not, again, I don't want to give out any spoilers, but there were some good guest, I'll call them guest appearances,
Yeah.
in the series that I really enjoyed.
The guy that voices his the guy that comes in that wants to rule instead, I'll just give it away. It's William Shatner, and it is William Shatner at his best.
That's not even the one I'm talking about. So we're just gonna leave it at
All
that.
right. Okay. All right. Great.
And because I know we're running out of time here. So Frank, any final comments?
Watch this cartoon, Dad.
Cartoon? What the hell am I watching a cartoon for?
That's right.
Anyways,
I'm not watching no cartoon.
hey, thanks for not listening or listening. I don't know, whatever. But hey, we'll catch you next time. Same streaming time, same streaming platform. Later, everybody.